Hey everyone, welcome back to Bullygate Sports for February 19th, 2025. Jam-packed show for you today, mostly talking about football. We're back to it, back to the grind. I want to start off with a backup being removed from the free agency market. One that I think many people were like, I wouldn't mind seeing my team sign them. I know as a Dolphins fan, I was open to it. So let's jump right into it. Andy Dalton has now re-signed with the Carolina Panthers. Per Adam Schefter, the Panthers and Andy Dalton reached an agreement on a 2-year, $8 million deal that includes $6 million guaranteed and a max value of $10 million. Panthers quarterback Bryce Young has developed a close relationship with Dalton, and now the two continue to get to work together. Dalton's going to be 39 at the end of this contract. Of course, he's 37 now. And it feels like this is like the last stop on his path to becoming a mentor and then probably a coach. I think it leaves a lot open for Dalton, who's had a lot of success in the league, led a lot of decent Bengals teams to playoff appearances. And if not for getting injured one season, he could have won an MVP. I think, Dalton's like a great, great backup and someone who has really helped facilitate Bryce Young's development. You have to remember, after the first year of Bryce Young, people were ready to completely write him off, to say that he was an absolute bust and that he could never live up to being the number one overall pick in the draft. However, I think that the back half of last season, after, of course, he started off poorly, when he was benched, he got to learn behind Andy Dalton, who was starting, and then he came back. He played a lot better, and I really do believe in Bryce Young as the future of the Carolina Panthers and that he should have a bright future under the tutelage of Andy Dalton. And I think this makes sense from Andy Dalton's perspective because, look, Andy Dalton is near the end of his career. He's not going to be signing with anybody to be a starter. I know, some people put out perhaps the Raiders. He could start there, but, let's be realistic. He's 37 years old. He has lost a bit of a step. What he brings to a team now is experience and the leadership he can bring through the learned experiences he's had. I think he's a great teacher for Bryce Young. Like I said, he's been able to help Bryce Young develop in a pretty big way in this one season or these rather 2 seasons under him. And I think that this was just a smart, savvy move for the Carolina Panthers, a team that's not been accused of being smart and savvy really for the last few years. I mean, ever since they've got a new owner, and obviously the old owner had his own issues. Ever since they got a new owner, they've been very quick to fire head coaches, to give up on players. Baker Mayfield went there and he was given up on pretty quickly. Sam Darnold, same thing there. I think because of those struggles, because of those potentially bad decisions that were made in the past, they're kind of like, look, they've learned from them. You learn from mistakes, right? And I think this is a great call. What does this do for the free agency market this season? I mean, Sam Darnold, huge winner of Andy Dalton re-signing. He is someone who I think will probably be a free agent. I don't see the Vikings bringing him back. Of course, I could be wrong. I didn't see the Panthers necessarily immediately bringing Andy Dalton back either. I thought he'd want to survey the land, as it were. But I think, big winner, Andy Dalton here, perhaps Derek Carr, should he get released from the Saints. So it should be interesting to see the kind of ripple effects that this causes. And, I feel like North Carolina is not a terrible place to play out your final years and maybe transition into coaching. I mean, from what I hear, great weather, great beaches. And, after being in Ohio for the majority of his career, I'm sure living in a place like North Carolina is very, very appealing to a player like Andy Dalton. So, if you're a Panthers fan, what do you think of the Panthers re-signing Andy Dalton? Are you a fan of it? How much influence do you think he's had on Bryce Young? And do you agree with me? Do you think that he's been able to help Bryce Young become a better player? And do you think, as I think, that he is well positioned to transition to being a quarterback's coach or, someone involved in a coaching role after these 2 years are up? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments. All right, moving on. I want to talk a little bit about Travis Kelce because he's a bit in limbo right now. We don't know. Is he going to retire? Is he going to come back? I wrote a blog for wecouldgeteverythingsports.com. Please go check it out. I'm going to be trying to blog more often there. Also, of course, check out Dolphins Talk for my blogs about Miami Dolphins in particular. So I'm just kind of recap what I wrote there, give some additional thoughts. Travis Kelce did say earlier, quote, "I'm going to take some time to figure it out, and I think I owe it to my teammates that if I do come back, it's going to be a wholehearted decision, and I'm not half-assing it, and I'm fully here for them," close quote. So here's what I wrote for the blog, and I hope you enjoy. Father Time is undefeated. It's a cliche, but it's one for a reason. Outside of Tom Brady, who gave Father Time a heck of a fight, an athlete's time is short. Travis Kelce is a 3-time Super Bowl champion, a 4-time first-team All-Pro, a 3-time second-team All-Pro, a 10-time Pro Bowler, and most importantly to this conversation, 35 years old. Kelce looks like a shell of himself this past season, posting a career low in receiving yards with 823 and touchdowns with 3. The playoffs followed that trend as he was only able to go for 13 receptions, 175 yards, and a single touchdown in 3 games. His performance in the Super Bowl was especially damning, with a 4-reception, 39-yard showing. Worst of all, he was seen giving up, or I guess giving his best impression of Albert Hainsworth during a play that featured Mahomes running for his life. If Kelce did announce his retirement today, he would go down as the greatest tight end in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs, beating out Hall of Famer Tony Gonzalez for the title by way of compiling all of his stats while playing for the Chiefs. He would also go down as a top 5 tight end of all time, if not top 3. Among tight ends, he is currently 5th in touchdowns with 89, 3rd in receiving yards, 3rd in receptions with 1,004, and he'd walk off the field of Super Bowl 59 and straight into the Hall of Fame as a first ballot member. Realistically, he has nothing left to prove and little chance of climbing the all-time list if he magically returns to form during next season. He could pass Jimmy Graham for 4th most touchdowns as he's 9 behind, but based on his production the past 2 seasons, that seems unlikely. The greatest argument for Kelce making one last run at things is money. If he tells the Chiefs he's playing next season, he'll get $11.5 million roster bonus on March 14th. In total, he'll make a little over $17 million next season. Perhaps most importantly, from a competitive athlete's point of view, he would have one more shot to win a Super Bowl, avenging the denied three-peat from this season. According to Nate Taylor of the Fan 96.5, the Chiefs have given him until March 14th as a deadline to make a decision. Furthermore, if he should return, they want him to take a reduced role that would see him used situationally, with his real value coming in the mentorship he can provide. The question is, would this deal appeal to Kelce? Would he be willing to do what it takes to get himself into NFL-level shape to stand on the sidelines and provide support to his successors? It isn't like Kelce doesn't have off-the-field options. Travis and his brother, former Eagles center Jason, host a wildly successful New Heights podcast. The latest full episode, where they discuss the Super Bowl, has pulled in 1.8 million views in just 3 days. The channel itself has over 2.5 million subscribers, and it shows no signs of slowing down. He also dabbled in acting, with a role in the upcoming Adam Sandler movie Happy Gilmore 2 and on the FX show Grotesquerie. Not to mention the wealth of opportunities afforded to him as the boyfriend of Taylor Swift, the most famous pop star in the world. Again, Travis Kelce has nothing left to prove as a football player. He's managed to ascend to heights very few players can ever dream of. When he's done, he'll be remembered as a legend. If I had to make a call, I would say that it's unlikely that he will retire. I say it was likely, that he will retire. The grind of an NFL season is daunting, and he has such little time to make a decision. With the quest for a 3-peat officially off the table and so many media opportunities waiting for him, it feels like the right time to ride off into the sunset. I'll be anxiously awaiting official word along with the rest of the NFL world, plus, of course, all the Swifties. And I'll report back when word comes. So, yeah, that's just my opinion on the situation, Travis Kelce. I do think he probably will retire, but let me know your thoughts. Do you think Travis Kelce is out? And please check out the blog, Wicked Everything Sports and Dolphins Talk, for more of my writing. And let's move on to the next segment. Welcome to Miami Minute, where we cover my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. And here's a topic that I never thought I would be covering as a Dolphins fan. It was a very embarrassing time. Bullygate, of course, you're familiar with it, happened, in 2013, back when I was in college, and it really torpedoed the Dolphins season. So the main headline of this is Jonathan Martin, the person who was bullied in Bullygate, who quit the team who all this was centered around, has insisted that he never believed that he was being bullied, and it was kind of a situation that spiraled out of control. He did a very lengthy series of interviews with ESPN's Anthony Oliveri, and I would suggest go reading that. Just search Bullygate ESPN, you'll be able to find it. It's very long, it's a good read. It sheds a lot of light on how this spiraled so far out of hand, but I want to read a segment from it and kind of give my thoughts. So this is from the article. By phone in March 2024, Martin reflected on the Wells report, saying, quote, "It's my greatest regret of my life to this day is participating in that clown show," close quote. Things happened in the locker room. His teammates called him names and said racist things to his face. They made misogynistic comments on the spectrum of behavior in football locker rooms. It was extreme, he said, but after Bullygate broke, Martin became the martyr and face of bullying, a role he says he didn't want to play. He didn't excuse what Incognito and the others did. It angered him, but he saw himself as a football player who had earned his spot on the team. Quote, "I was an NFL starter," he said. "I was getting paid millions of dollars," close quote. He saw the world of football as intensely competitive, and he saw himself as someone strong enough to be there. When Martin left the Dolphins facility on October 28th, 2013, reporters started asking questions. At some point after his departure, Martin said during the 2024 call, his mother told reporters that he was being bullied in Miami and that she said, quote, "said the word bullying." This is Martin. "I had a situation with my teammates that I wasn't super happy about, but my mother had her own read on the situation. The word took on a life of its own and the situation went viral. I hadn't even told my coaches. I hadn't told anyone. And suddenly it's on ESPN, right? At the time, he didn't push back. I didn't believe any of the stances I was taking, right, where I'm this victim. I wasn't a victim, right? And again, it's been a point of consternation. His mom and I did strongly intervene," Gus Martin, Martin's father, said, "to make sure he was protected. Jonathan initially had shared with his parents that he hadn't shared with anyone else about what happened in the Miami locker room. Jane Howard Martin declined to speak for his story, but Jonathan's friend Tariq remembers Martin's parents always trying to create a safe space for him, to not have to encounter the same things that they did. It's hard to picture them trying to take control it isn't hard to picture them trying to take control during the days of Bullygate." This is Martin again. "My mother, maybe in her mind, I can't read her mind, she thought she was doing the right thing." Looking back, Martin said that the call that he understands why his parents would have been overprotective of him. Martin continues, "She wasn't intentionally trying to hurt me." He said most people, especially those who didn't play the game, might think what happened to him was bullying. But men who sweat and grunt and bang heads for a living often act a certain way when they are around each other. She never played football. She doesn't know what it's like to communicate when you're playing football. He did need to step away. He said the environment and pressures took a toll on him. There's certain things I want to acknowledge. One was I was not well. I needed some sort of a break from football. Martin said that he doesn't view not standing up to Incognito and the other players as cowardly. "I was young and I didn't know how to handle it. The regret now," he said, "is how the investigation proceeded and how we responded to the story going public and the resulting fallout. As a result of that," Martin said he no longer could call himself a good teammate at the time. Martin, "I should have stood up to it more. I should have been like, look, this is wrong." Before hanging up, Martin seemed to replay the moment in his head. He could have told team management his version of the story. He said he could have put out a statement and made it clear to the public that what was going on and how he felt about it. He could have countered what his mother had told the reporters. He didn't need this to be a tit for tat on TMZ, right? He said, "I should have sat down with the owner and head coach and the Dolphins and figured it out." So that was very interesting, I thought, and it kind of goes to show, like, one, I do feel for Jonathan Martin in the sense that he said that he suffered from depression and he didn't handle the situation correctly. Somebody spoke to his mother without him knowing that this would happen. His mother said it was bullying. At the time in the country, bullying was like under a microscope. And of course, bullying is not good, but there was like a huge, intense backlash to this. And Richie Incognito, I do think he's earned a reputation as a hothead, someone who perhaps has a few screws loose, and it made him like a pretty easy face of the situation to put the blame on, to kind of have like the nation enact their resentment towards bullies and put it on to Richie Incognito. But let's be honest, he looks like he's a bully. You know, he's got the bully look. He looks like Bulk from Power Rangers, right? And I think what a lot of people don't understand, and how could we? We've never been in NFL locker rooms, as Martin says. Communication in NFL locker rooms is quite different than communications in other workplaces. Stuff that is said and done in NFL locker rooms wouldn't fly. Is that right or wrong? I mean, that's up to the individual person to concede. Obviously, the Wells report found it wrong and found it to be bullying. But if Jonathan Martin himself didn't feel that it was bullying, he should have spoke up in the moment. And I think it's good that he's speaking up now, but there was a lot of fallout. Richie Incognito was suspended for that season. He missed all of 2014, missing out on money and really permanently having his reputation altered. Also, the offensive line coach, Jim Turner, was fired, and in 2015, he filed a lawsuit over the Wells report. And this is from an ESPN article at the time. Turner, who thinks his reputation career have been unfairly affected, believes that the Wells report on the Dolphins negatively and perhaps permanently altered his ability to land in another NFL head coach or another NFL coaching job. Certainly stymied the potential of his career. I think that goes without saying. But I think, this was just a very messy situation, a situation that like really made me embarrassed to be a Dolphins fan, and one that was handled poorly, not only by the team, by the players, by media surrounding it, right? Like why are we only getting this 10 years after the fact? I really took umbrage with the fact there's a Dolphins beat reporter, Mark Kelly, who I do respect and I think he does a good job, but he had a weird tweet where he was like, we had to report on things we knew weren't true. And I do personally feel, and obviously I'm just a guy who writes some blogs and has a YouTube channel, but like that's not your job to report what you know is false as a journalist. Even if like you want to say like, oh, you're a sports journalist, it's not as serious. Like these are real people who suffered real consequences from the full story not necessarily being out there. And I want to say like that is your job as a reporter. So bad on all of the Miami beat reporters for not getting more out of this, and just a horrible situation. Hopefully, like Jonathan Martin's able to learn and grow from this. Hopefully, he's able to make amends in some way with Richie Incognito, with Jim Turner, with anyone else who's kind of caught in the crossfire. And hopefully, Richie Incognito's able to potentially rehab his reputation and kind of get people to understand that, like, yeah, maybe this stuff wouldn't fly in a normal workplace, but the NFL locker room isn't a normal workplace. So, very complicated situation. I do wish that Jonathan Martin, if he truly feels like he wasn't bullied at the time, that he had come out and, squashed it in the moment, because this is a, huge moment in the NFL, especially for the Dolphins. So, if you're a Dolphins fan, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Please go read the full article, of course. It's very well written and very informative, gives a ton of information. It's incredibly long because it was a series of interviews dating back to 2023 to get the whole story out there. So great work by Anthony there. And yeah, just very interesting situation. Please give me your thoughts on it. And yeah, that's it for this segment. Thank you so much for checking out the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe. Check out our Better Radio channel for all of our podcasts that aren't sports, and our Wicked Everything channel for nerd and pop culture news. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.